us today, we have a very special guest who is an amazing real estate agent here in the Denver metro area. We have with us Lisa Nguyen. How are you?
Good. Doing well.
Awesome. So we can see Lisa on video, and Lisa is a Colorado-born native, serves kind of the Denver metro area, surrounding areas. But Lisa also is bilingual in Vietnamese. So her parents arrived in the U.S. as Vietnamese refugees in the 1970s with $20 in their pocket. And Lisa has made some amazing things happen in the Denver metro area, as well as with the Asian Real Estate Association of America. Is that right, Lisa?
Yep, that's correct. I'm currently serving as the Greater Denver 2020 president of Aria.
Awesome. So you were awarded as one of the Asian American and Pacific Islander women leaders, the Diamonds and Pearls of Denver in 2017 from Denver Mayor Hancock as well. And you're also the Colorado Homeowners Magazine 2019 40 Under 40 winner. And you've also been on the American Dream TV show. So, I mean,
we have a celebrity in our midst, a rock star.
No kidding. I mean, Lisa, you're like taking over the world, and kudos to you. You're an amazing woman leader, an amazing Asian American woman leader. And we're honored to have you on the show today.
It's great to be on the show today, especially amongst all of these things that are going on right now.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff happening right now, and with the coronavirus, and we're all kind of practicing our social distancing by using video conferencing and the podcast here. But let's talk about you first, though, Lisa. Not the coronavirus. Okay, so how did you get into real estate? What's your story?
So it actually goes back pretty far. I got my license in 2005. And at that time, it was more an idea after college of going into real estate. Shortly after I got my license, the market crashed in 2007. And so I worked through that first recession there and ended up getting pregnant with my second child. And so I quit and went into corporate for 5 years while I was raising my kids. And I had an aha moment one day after working 5 years in a corporate job. And I quit without a plan. It was pretty crazy what I did. I've never done something like that before in my whole entire life. And I cashed out my retirement, and then I put it back into real estate. And so in 2016, I joined Remax Professionals. I got an amazing opportunity with that company. And they brought me on board, and I took my retirement money and I bought some yard signs and a billboard on South Federal and got some business cards, and I said a prayer and hoped that it would work out. And I literally have never looked back since. So I just celebrated my 4th year with Remax Professionals, and here I am 4 years later, I guess 15 years later, technically. Just it's been a long journey, but I am an agent that quit at one point because it was so hard, and then got back into it. And then the second time around, I said, I'm not going to do it part-time. I'm going in, all in. That's it. All in or nothing at all at this point. And it just happened to work out.
I love your attitude, Lisa. I mean, I'm going to go do this, and you go do it. So, and you're also the president of Aria. So can you explain to us what that organization is and how you got involved?
Yeah, so Aria, it was started in 2003 by John Wong and Alan Okamoto, and a few others who had sat at a round table and decided that they were going to put an organization together to help sustainable home ownership within the AAPI communities. If you look at the statistics within the community, we have very high education levels, very high income, but yet the ownership levels are a lot lower than our counterparts. And so at that time, they formed an organization not knowing what was going to happen, and 41 chapters and 17,500 members later, here we are. I got involved with Aria in 2016 when Dylan Nguyen started the Greater Denver chapter here in Denver. And I served as his treasurer, dipping my feet in the water, not knowing too much about the organization. But since then, I've worked in, went from treasurer to vice president last year, now to president. But the main purpose of getting involved with Aria was to help service my community here. And it's not even really just about one community. I've been, working with others from NAREP and NAGOREP and NAREB and a lot of the other organizations so that we can put our resources and our communities together to try to just get everybody into houses that that don't have the opportunity for sustainable home ownership. So for me, it's not just about Aria, but it's just about working together for the greater good of helping people who would never, without these opportunities, be able to get into a home.
I love that. So you mentioned the rapid growing Asian American and Pacific Islanders demographic in the U.S. So specifically, why is it important to serve that community?
It's very important to service it, because if you were just to look at statistics alone, let's say all things aside, all opinions aside, maybe you don't speak the language, you don't know too much about the culture, but by 2055, we're slated to be the largest minority group in the whole country. And so if you were just merely looking at statistics, you don't work for the community, but somebody on the other end might be a seller or a buyer. And so if you're starting to look into the future of real estate, I think it's very important to diversify yourself and just start to learn about things that you don't know. Because whether or not you're ready for it, the way that the demographics are changing, that's why it's going to be important to just understand, a little bit more about that community. There's things like FERPDA, which are on our purchase contract now, that people overlook, and they don't realize that it's already a part of our contracts, and it's a part of our contracts for a reason. Because most people, they don't want to think about it until they get sued or something bad happens. But it's better just to educate yourself now and prepare for the way that the market is changing.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I grew up very close to the Asian American and Pacific Islanders community. One of my very best friends growing up is Japanese, Hawaiian, and I spent a ton of time with their family. And then my neighbors were Korean. And it was part of my childhood growing up in my life, and understanding the different Asian American and Pacific Islander cultures was fascinating. I love the cultures and just the community and the family. And I think so many people are missing out if you don't become part of that and really get to know, that's an incredibly beautiful part of society. So how do you see us as, kind of as a society integrating more with the Asian American and Pacific Islanders? Do you see different growing organizations like that popping up around the U.S. to have more exposure to those that just might not have exposure to those cultures and call it Middle America or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely see a change. If you think about it, Aria was started in 2003, which in the bigger picture wasn't that long ago. And just to see how much it's grown, I've had so much more interest even from huge banks, a lot of organizations, everybody wanting to just learn a little bit more. And there's so many, like you said, there's so much about the culture which people can learn about, even as far as real estate. There's feng shui, which a lot of people here don't use, but people are practicing more and more every day, especially with what's going on, in society, in the community. People are trying to have to diversify themselves to sell houses to a different type of buyer. And so even within real estate, if you just look at it in that realm, people are definitely more intrigued with learning about the community. But also, if you look at international business, like I just got back from the Asia convention in India, where I was given the opportunity to speak over there for RE/MAX, and it was really intriguing for me to learn about how they do real estate in India. And so vice versa, there's just so many things with technology the way it is now. We're able to meet people in other countries, stay in touch with them. We're able to start doing business. I have people from that trip that are still emailing me now asking about investing money from India and how their investors from India would invest here and vice versa. And, some of the people I met on the trip are other Asians that are in New Zealand. It's the first time in my life I met somebody an Asian Vietnamese man with a New Zealand accent. So I was thrown off. It's just very intriguing. It's just great to see how the world is starting to blend together, and how all of our different cultures and all of the different countries around the world, how we're connected. We don't think we're connected until things like this happen. And then all of a sudden we find out just how connected we are and how much we depend on one another, not just in this nation, but around the world. And that's where I kind of see things starting to change with technology, just connecting us more.
100%. I completely agree. And I had the opportunity to speak at one of our Asia Pacific conferences as well a couple of years ago. It was so much fun. And you're right. It's interesting because you go to the, it's called the Asia Pacific Conference, but you get there and it is it's a conglomeration of somewhere between 22 and 25 countries typically that, like you said, extend all the way down to Australia, New Zealand, all throughout, different parts of Africa here and there, and all the different Asia communities and countries. So it's actually, if you're a RE/MAX agent and you have not been to the Asia Pacific Conference, I strongly encourage you to check it out. There is so much business that is going on there, as well as some incredible cultural experience. It's just
I met people
unbelievable.
I met people from Thailand, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, different parts of the world that I had never even heard of before. People flew in from Africa. It was not, I've been to R4 in Vegas. It's amazing. I love R4 just because of how much happens there. But when I went to India and got to go see the Taj Mahal with, the corporate in India, that was a surreal experience. And so it's so nice being a part of a company that is in this many countries. What are we in 117 different countries now? And to see what other RE/MAX agents are doing around the world. You don't even need a license in India, which is so crazy. And I think that RE/MAX is starting to go into these countries, and we're trying to set a standard of real estate around the world on how people should practice and be more professional in their business practices. And hopefully what we're doing here in the United States will be able to implement in other countries around the world, especially those Asian countries that don't have as many rules and regulations right now. I think we're really setting the bar for a lot of these other countries, and that's huge.
Yeah, I completely agree. I want to talk briefly about, we talk about all these different cultures, and unfortunately, sometimes you crash into things like unconscious bias, and it's truly that there's no ill will intended. However, we have to consciously understand that there are different cultures, and we need to treat everybody fairly and equally in this world with fair housing. Give me a little bit of your perspective, Lisa, on how some tips that maybe you have on how the real estate community can ensure that there is not unconscious bias occurring.
So I actually, outside of serving on Aria, I serve on the Community Alliance Task Force at the Denver Metro Association of Realtors. And what we have done is we have put all of the organizations together, Aria, NARREP, NAGAREP, NARREP, a lot of these organizations together. And what we've done is we've formed a task force where people can go to educate themselves, to learn more about fair housing. I think everybody needs to be very conscious of it. I actually don't get too, there's things that do make me angry. There's things that don't make me angry. Mainly what I'm realizing though, as I'm learning about different cases in fair housing, is that a lot of people don't even realize they are violating fair housing. So the first thing I think you need to do is educate yourself. There's a lot of protected classes. And so as you're going out and doing real estate, people are violating laws, I don't even think intentionally most of the time. So education is key. I just highlight that group because we are a body of education, and you can always come to our group if you have a question about, hey, is this a violation? And what we've done is we started this in 2016, and CAR took notice of it. I know Tyrone Adams, he's the CEO of CAR. He really stepped in and advocated for our group. And since we started our group, a bunch of other realtor organizations from around the state have started their own task forces, just because they were like, wow, we didn't even realize we have nothing like this either. And we didn't, there's a lot of the leaders that didn't know, how they even get that education out to their realtors. I mean, and we ended up actually getting publicity on a national level. I had the Department of Justice call me from Washington, D.C., and I had been quoted in an article after I spoke at the Economic Summit, and they were talking about discrimination and fair housing. And I kind of, being the crazy person that I am, I invited them to Denver, and I said, would you like to come meet us? And everybody was like, you invited the DOJ to come meet us? I said, I sure did. And I rounded up, 17 leaders from around the state in all of the different communities. And we sat down and we talked with the DOJ, and everybody was nervous, but really they were like, we're not here to get people in trouble. A lot of times, companies, corporations are violating fair housing and they don't know. And so we can help in correcting those actions. So they've went into like big banks before. And, I think when you get a letter from the DOJ, it's a little different from other people. So it's corrected people's actions and it's actually done good in the community. And I think what we've done is spun it in a positive way. But I would say for agents that don't know, go to one of the organizations or connect with an agent like me. I'm always a source and resource to RE/MAX agents or anybody that needs more information on what they may be doing to violate fair housing, just because it's such a huge topic right now. And I just think a lot of people, they don't know.
Totally agree. And thank you for all your effort on that, Lisa. I think that's an incredibly important aspect of our business and the community that we all need to be focusing on. It's something we have to consciously take a look at and make sure that we're, following fair housing and treating people well. Everybody deserves to be treated fairly and equally, regardless of where they come from or their beliefs or anything like that. So thank you so much for what you do on that. So Lisa, I have a couple of questions that I ask all of our attendees on Start With a Win. The first one is, do you have any favorite books that you read?
So a couple. I don't know if anybody's ever. I love Think and Grow Rich, but reading it over and over again. It was one of the books that had been my favorite. And then when I actually heard Dave Lininger speak once, he said he had read that book 20 or 30 times or something. So I knew I was on the right path when our own CEO had read that book a bunch of times. But what I love about Think and Grow Rich is they give you some advice, one of them being maybe a mantra, saying something 2 times a day. That was the best piece of advice that I took from that book. So every year I write down how many deals I want to do and how much money I want to make. And, I stick it in places like my whiteboard or on a mirror, and you say that mantra 2 times a day. And at some point you bring things to fruition from practicing and looking at something, twice a day, every single day for the whole year. And you set goals subliminally in your head that help you to achieve those goals. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, I'm a poet, so I love poetry books. I eat, breathe, think real estate, but at the same time, there's got to be balance in your life too. So whatever it is that you love, I would recommend reading those books. I mean, I just happen to love Sylvia Plath and Edgar Allan Poe and all of those really dark poets, but I love poetry. That's my escape from real estate, because there's got to be a balance to anybody that's in this industry knows that you almost have to be crazy to survive this industry, but a lot of that is by balancing yourself. So I do love poetry books.
I love it. What an amazing answer, and some awesome places for our listeners to go. And Lisa, I have a question for you. How do you start your day with a win?
So for me, it's breakfast with the family. I cook up a big feast every morning. I mean, it's kind of exhausting. I know everybody doesn't have the time to do that, but I do make time for that. And I always start with a huge breakfast. And while we're eating breakfast, sometimes we joke around, and I have an attitude of gratitude. So, I wake up and I try to tell myself, thank God I woke up. And I adjust my attitude before the day starts, because however you set your morning can really, really set the tone for the rest of the day. So I'm a big advocate of a huge breakfast, a lot of joking around, and an attitude of gratitude. That is how I start my morning.
I love it. Lisa Nguyen, amazing RE/MAX agent, amazing member of the Asian American and Pacific Islanders community. as well as the real estate community globally with RE/MAX. Lisa's an awesome agent in the greater Denver area with RE/MAX Professionals. So make sure you check her out for all your real estate needs in Denver, Colorado. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and for being on Start with a Win.
Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody.